Are you tired of those endless and unwanted sales calls interrupting your day? Companies calling you without your permission? Or continuing to call and text you after you've politely told them to stop? Well, then you're not alone in this frustration. According to the last Ofcom report on the subject, over 1 billion nuisance calls were made in the UK alone, and more than 45 million of these calls or texts were classified as scam-related, with 8 out of 10 UK adults reporting receiving a suspicious message. The story in Europe is similar, with countries like Spain, France, Italy, Poland and Sweden all seeing a high level of phone scams, as being illustrated on screen now. The rest of this video shares some of what you can do to address and stop these unwanted sales calls and texts. First of all, let's define the law here in the UK. Companies can only make direct marketing calls or send text messages to individuals who have specifically consented to receive them. This consent can be given when someone buys something from the company or opts to receive into marketing communications on a website. Companies must have the consumer's prior consent to make sales calls or send sales texts. It's illegal for companies to make unsolicited calls to numbers that are registered with TPS, the telephone preference services. We're going to talk about TPS and what it is later in the video. When it comes to nuisance and unwanted calls, the law is on your side. For example, here in the UK, strict regulations are in place. GDPR, which is General Data Protection Regulation, and PECR, which is the UK's Privacy and Electronics Communication Regulations, are designed to protect you from unwanted sales calls and texts. The Information Commissioner's Office, often abbreviated to ICO, has the responsibility to enforce these rules. One of your first options to try and prevent unwanted sales calls is the TPS, the Telephone Preference Service. Registering your number with them is free and easy, as you can see on the screen now. It's just a simple visit to a website, choosing the option that best suits you, and popping in your telephone number. And when your number is on that TPS list, it's illegal for most companies to call you. Note though, it can take up to 28 days for your number to be classed as protected from unwanted calls, but this is a crucial step in stopping those calls. Similar services to the TPS service in the UK exist in other European countries. The names of some of these service providers are appearing on screen now. Sometimes a company that you have a contract with might call you. This is called legitimate interest. For example, if you have a subscription to a service and you maybe have stopped paying the bill for some reason, the company can continue to contact you to discuss collecting payments. Another example is if you stayed at a hotel and left some personal property behind. The hotel has a legitimate interest in calling you to share that you have left something behind, even if your number is on the TPS list. If you still get sales calls that you don't want, be firm with the caller. Tell the caller that you're registered with the Telephone Preference Service and ask them to remove your number from their list. Keep a record of the call details, the date, the time, and the company name, as these pieces of information are essential to make a complaint to the likes of the Information Commissioner's Office. If the unsolicited calls persist, then do report them to the ICO. The ICO has a duty to investigate complaints and to take action against the companies who are breaking the rules. Your report does matter and helps the ICO build a case. Reporting nuisance calls is easy. Simply visit the ICO website and complete the online form, which can take up to 5 minutes. And note that you can report both unsolicited calls and text messages. The good news is, for those of you who don't like to use online forms, you can simply telephone the Information Commissioner's Office on 0303 123 1113, that number appearing on screen now. Here are a few more simple tips. Screen your calls and don't answer if you don't recognise the number. If the call is important, the caller is likely to leave you a message. Be careful about sharing your number on websites and explore call blocking tools. You can check out the previous video which we did that shows you how to block calls on your smartphone. A link to this video will be close by this one, or you can pause the video now and scan the QR code that is appearing on the screen now. Remember, when it comes to companies contacting you, you are not powerless. By knowing your rights, using the TPS service, reporting companies to the ICO, and taking extra steps, you can reclaim your peace and quiet. Let's work together to put an end to nuisance and unwanted calls.